Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hi, everybody. It's Michael Menino again with Driven Unscripted Success podcast. Today on the podcast, we're interviewing professionals who share their experience with you, the audience, and how they got to where they're at today, and zooming from the beautiful island of Albert. Where are you from?
I am from New Jersey.
New Jersey. That's awesome. Dr. Albert Bramante. He's wrote a book. It's called Rise Above the Script. And you're promoting the book as we speak, and you're doing like promotions for actors and producers and stuff like that, aren't you?
Yes. My primary occupation is a talent agent, so I represent actors in their career for film, TV, theater, commercial, written voiceover. I do the day-to-day job seeking for them. I help them place them in jobs and negotiate contracts and all that fun stuff.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Yeah, how is that industry? Is that a cutthroat industry, or?
It can be. It's very fulfilling, but it can be, challenging at times because there's so many actors, that are
Gotcha. Yeah.
that are really trying to make it, and especially in a major metropolitan area, New York for me is usually a very big acting market. There's, almost, I would say, close to 200,000 actors in New York alone. And then you find that LA, which is also another 200,000 or 300,000. So it's really a high, staggering number of actors for only a small number of roles. So the competition is extreme.
Gotcha. So you got to get something you got to help them, rise above the script probably helps them differentiate themselves from other actors.
Yeah, I mean, that's the important thing with when it comes to success is in acting, and just with any profession, is kind of like, in a sense, kind of focusing on a specific area, or what's your specific focus, like dialing it down. What type can you really play? What specific area? What type of characters can you play? So it's being very focused. One of the mistakes a lot of actors make, and a lot of business owners make, is they want to do it all. They want to serve everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't work. So very often it's coming up with a very specific type, and then kind of like gearing your marketing materials around that type so that it shows casting directors, producers, executives, directors, hey, this is what I can do. This is who I am. This is, where I want to be. And this is the direction I want to go in, versus, hey, I'm just an actor. Here I am. The problem with that is, again, we're an oversaturated market, an oversaturated profession. So the important thing is to dial in your materials and stand out and really make a mark out there, and really, in a sense, know how to brand yourself.
There you go. I told you a little bit earlier, I was in modeling back in the day, and I always thought I'd play a great villain. I don't know why, but I can get angry really quick and show it on screen. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That would just be one of the villains that I've seen. I don't know why. I think that's a cool part to be. But I've seen villains like one casted. So is that a tough, like, a good villain in a certain show can't really get any other parts? Does that make sense?
It depends. There are some versatile actors that can really pull it off. But you're usually going to have, at least every actor is going to kind of have that like go to one or two types of roles. And I'll use an example of a well-known actor, Steve Buscemi. Now, Steve Buscemi is either going to play the bad guy, the villain, the jerk,
mm-hmm.
or the bumbling comedic idiot sidekick. That's
right.
always going to have this bad luck upon him. Now he made a great life out of that and a great career out of that. But those were
Right.
kind of like the directions of the roles he played. You're not going to see him being the heartthrob in a romantic movie. That's just
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
who he is. And being comfortable and confident in your skin as playing those types of roles is going to be important. And once you nail that type, they can start to see you can do other things. Like, for example, Jim Carrey. If you followed the career, if anybody's followed who's listening, followed the career of Jim Carrey, 80% of the roles he always played were the idiot, the over the top comedic.
Hmm.
However, there were moments if you watch like the Truman Show or the biopic he did on that celebrity. It's he can very well do dramatic very well and do
He's
such
versatile. He's
versatile.
very versatile. He's one of the most versatile actors you'll ever see, I think. And there's
Yeah,
like
and
Denzel Washington, him, and a couple other people that can make
Robin
every
Williams.
part believable. But you're saying that's rare, right?
It is rare, but I think once you dominate a specific type, like again, Jim Carrey for most of his early career was playing the
Slapstick idiot.
slapstick idiot.
But he
Uh,
turned the slapstick idiot into like the mask. Slapstick idiot turned into the superhero.
yeah, or the Ace Ventura.
Ace Ventura.
And that's what really put him on the map. Starting his work with The Living Color, and then the Mask, and then the Ace Ventura movies. So he made a very good, living off of playing the idiot slapstick, and that was what he was really good at, and that's what he focused on. And so a lot of actors have to take a look at what are you really, naturally able to play, because sometimes you may want to play a certain role, but it may not be possible to be seen in that universe.
Gotcha. Yeah. I see exactly what you're talking about. And you have a doctorate in psychology, right?
Yes.
So
Yes, I
how
do.
does that relate to your industry? How do you relate that into your industry?
Well, I never really, growing up, ever thought I'd be a talent agent. Never thought I'd
Yeah,
be in this.
you're planning on being a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. I had laser focus.
Focus.
I was going to be a clinical psychologist. I was going to have a PhD. I was going to teach. I was going to have a practice. That was my goal for most of my undergraduate, even when I was going for a master's degree. That was just my area of focus. I was always an avid reader, but I always had a slight interest in performing arts. I was in a drama club in high school. I took some
Mhm.
acting classes and theater classes as electives during my undergraduate studies. And I really enjoyed the process and I really enjoyed those classes. Now, when I was my senior year, well, I don't know, I was having my second year when I was going for a master's degree, I did an internship. And by some stroke of luck, I landed up doing an internship in the aftercare counseling of a top New York talk show at the time, which is Sally Jesse Raphael. And
Okay.
that was my first kind of foray into TV and show business. And it was an eye opening experience of exponential levels working behind the scenes of a talk show, major talk show.
Mhm.
When I say eye opening, it was not what I expected.
Okay.
What I didn't realize how much scripted it is, even though it's
Really?
unscripted. I didn't realize again that, and what was my first kind of introduction to persona versus real life person.
Gotcha.
And I'm not going to sit here and really spend time bashing the show, but let me just tell you that the off-camera Sally, Jesse Raphael, and the on-camera Sally, Jesse Raphael, were completely opposite people.
Really? So there was the character was their show performance.
Big time, 100%.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
And that's Now at the time I was young, I really didn't know too much, but that's pretty much a norm at most of these shows. You have the persona, the on-camera persona, and the off-camera. Now, ideally, sometimes you want them to be similar, but they're not. They're often not. And so
Really?
that was an eye-opening experience.
I,
Also, what was eye-opening for me was how, and it's not surprising now that I look back at it, but it was all about ratings, which is
yes.
scores. So it didn't matter if the story was factually true or not. It was all about ratings. So what they would often do, when you would arrive to New York, they flew you to New York to be a guest. They would put you in different rooms
Okay.
for you. Like if you were going as a couple asking for forgiveness or family member trying to talk, and they would just instigate it to a point where everybody was so angry because the goal of every commercial segment was to get someone to walk off, someone to throw a chair or something to do that. Because again, ratings. What was happening was a lot of people were, when I would follow up with them afterwards, because that was what aftercare is. How are you doing with counseling? How are you doing after the show? A lot of them were so angry at the show to the point where they're like, I don't want to hear from you guys again. You ruined my life. You told a different story than what I had set out to do.
It it interrupt, but isn't that the one where someone shot somebody afterwards?
That was Jenny Jones. But
Oh, okay. Whew.
the program that I was a part of was as a response of that.
Gotcha.
So that you weren't just, okay, we're going to set up this major thing and then be on your own. Now you had to do some sort of follow up to make sure everybody's not going to hurt themselves.
Right. Wow,
And
yeah, that changed TV for a while, didn't it?
it was a monumental thing. And it really, so after that internship experience, I was like, I'm never going to work in TV talk shows ever again. Now, it was a guilty pleasure of mine because I was a full time grad student. So over summer, I watched a lot of talk shows, but I was like, I don't want anything associated with this because it just felt unethical to me just to do
Right.
the amount of exploitation and manipulation. So, and again, no surprise now that I know about the industry. So fast forward now, we got my master's degree. I was working a little bit in social services. 9/11 happened. My contact at Sally had called me and said, look, I'm starting this organization off the ground. We're working with a bunch of actors. We're doing some crisis intervention. We're doing some advocacy work. Would you like to be part
Sounds
of it?
good.
Absolutely. So it was called Operation Healing America. And it was designed to help with rescue workers, their families, families of slain officers, family of those that are injured. So we did a lot of work there, and then I started working with actors and a lot of some of the Italian actors that were like in The Sopranos, not the main characters, but like the ancillary characters, the supporting characters. I was working a lot with them. They're like, you should get into movies. You have a good luck. Okay, that's when I started pursuing acting for a brief moment. I realized one thing: I didn't really like it, but I enjoyed being on set, being around actors.
Hmm.
And so maybe for a year and a half, I pursued acting. I was in a couple of indie films, some local commercials. Not much to really say to myself because again, I didn't know much about the business at that time. So I then started volunteering at film festivals. Started volunteering at different acting organizations, support networks, and I realized how much I loved being around actors and how much I loved helping actors. And so it kind of was a natural progression to start representing them. And so that's how that started. Now, when I was starting my business and launching my business, one issue that I kept running up to was these actors were self sabotaging. What I mean by that, they would stop, not show up for auditions, come up with excuses why they couldn't make auditions, and it wasn't. It was confusing the heck out of me because On one hand, they were telling me how much he wanted to work. On the other hand, they were showing their reactions were different. So I couldn't figure out the disconnect here. So I was kind of like beating my head against the wall, like, what's up with these actors? And at that time, I was already in a PhD program because I made a promise to my family, especially my grandmother, that I would be a doctor.
Right.
And I already completed a master's degree, so I was like, I might as well I'm halfway there. So I enrolled in the PhD program, and we have to do this major dissertation for
Yeah, your
which
piece. Yeah.
PhD. And so our advisor gave us a tip to do this, to pick a topic we're passionate about, pick a topic that we're interested in, pick a burning question. And so, what's up with these actors really came to my mind. Why are they self-sabotaging? So I did my dissertation on self-defeating behavior in performing artists. That was like my focus of my dissertation. And then several years later, I turned it into a book.
Nice.
That's where Rise Above the Script came in. So, long story, kind of like wrapping this up, that's how both of my worlds kind of come together, in a sense.
Do you see how they can you? I can see how they would come together because psychology is everything. Everything we do is psychology.
Oh, absolutely.
Relationships, contracts, anything you do. We do multifamily and build houses and flip houses and stuff like that, and it's all contracts. And I remember someone said a long time ago, how important is a contract? And my attorney said, only contract's only as good as the person signing it. And it's the relationship between you that's more important than the contract. And the
Yeah.
psychology that you have between like understanding what both parties want.
Yeah, understanding the consumer, the psychology of the consumer, and how to connect and develop rapport with the consumer and the buyer and all of that. And the same thing goes even with actors. The relationships are important because the relationships that an actor has with casting directors or producers, with directors, is what's going to really help them succeed. It's about developing relationships. The same in the business and real estate world. Is relationships are like the key.
Everything's relationships.
Yeah, everything is relationships, and I think it's so important that we have the ability to know how to connect to other people.
Yes, agreed wholeheartedly. That's probably one of the biggest skills you can have.
Hmm.
Um, what is one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome in your career?
Well, I would definitely say would be getting the PhD. That the dissertation process was exhausting, totally worth it. And anybody listening, hey, if you have the chance, definitely go for a PhD. But it is an exhausting process. And there are moments where I wasn't sure I was going to complete it. And
Mm,
because what often happens is it's much more than just writing a simple paper for a course. And during my master's and PhD programs, I wrote a ton of dozens of papers that were like 25, 30 pages. This wasn't. It was totally a different process. Um, it's like an actual original part of research, and the scrutiny that goes into a dissertation is much more intense than like a course paper would go, as far as like the amount of feedback and all of that. So it was really intense. And there was moments where I was like, I don't know if I can do this, because at that time I was juggling a lot of different things. There was a brief moment where I was a full-time professor while I was
gotcha.
doing, and when
You're
you're
a
a
full time
full-time,
professor. Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but you were a full time professor and you helped out actors.
and I was
Wow.
working on a PhD. I I'll be completely honest, and I would say that was my second challenging experience because I burnt myself to the ground,
Yeah.
like literally just
Yeah.
wiped out. And
Hmm.
I would say my there was like a good year to year and a half where I was just exhausted 24/7,
Yeah.
physically, mentally, spiritually, all of that. I was done. I was just burnt out, and that's where the moment where it's like almost where I was just like screw everything, forget everything.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of us have been there.
it was a very scary moment now looking back at it, because I'm like, that took a lot. That I never want to go back to the place again. So, blessing in disguise. I would say, another hard experience was losing the full time teaching position.
Okay.
So, where I'm in New Jersey, the law kind of is 5 years to get tenure as a professor. Now, I was on the tenure track, and between the fourth and the fifth year, they that's like the deciding year where you go through a scrutiny of interviews, and we then get a memo. The college-wide all full-time professors saying, because there was a new administration, we're going to cut 15 tenure track professors across all different disciplines. Every department is going to have to lose at least one or two.
Okay.
I was
You were the lucky one. You were the lucky one.
I was the lucky one, and I say that, at the time, I would, if I said I was lucky when I was sarcastic, but now looking back at it, I really do think I was lucky to get out of it.
How so?
Because the stress. I didn't realize how much stress I was under.
Gotcha.
It was not just the classes were great. The politics of higher ed is something to be desired. There was much more drama in higher ed politics than there are in the actors I work with. The actors
more drama in the higher education than actual drama actors and actresses. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was and so when I was devastated when it first happened, because it was like I got comfortable in my identity.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, oh, because I was getting teaching awards, I got all these accolades from students, and I thought this is going to be cake, shoe in. I didn't realize what the politics of that. When sometimes you become the most popular with the students, your peers may not be so appreciative of
Jealousy?
that. Jealousy, yeah. And for me, it was no big deal. I was like, why would you be jealous? I'm just being me.
Right.
I'm not trying to do anything different. So that ended that. My teaching career ended full time. And so I said, okay, so here's the blessing in disguise. Saying I can now focus on finishing my dissertation. And now I can really put my energy into my talent agency.
Okay, cool, awesome. And your talent agency blew up after that?
Blew up after that, and then maybe a year and a half later, I received a PhD. So,
nice.
Win-win. And then I was like, now I'm going to go back to teaching, but now I do it on a part-time basis. I'm not involved in the politics or anything. I just, being an adjunct instructor is amazing. I just go in, I teach my classes, and I'm done. I don't do anything else. And I now teach mostly virtual because since the pandemic, a lot of classes have been virtual. So I just teach virtually at my own home.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's it. It's great. So I get to still do what I love, but I don't have the stress of it. So I would say those challenging experiences really define me.
Okay, I agree. The most challenging things I've ever done are my most rewarding things I've ever done.
Absolutely. Same here. And so that was definitely my hardship. I'd say another difficult thing I do is publishing the book. So I'm going to call myself out on this because I feel like if I'm going to talk to other people, I got to kind of call myself out. I had my own imposter syndrome with writing the book for a while.
What was your imposter syndrome?
Oh, well, who am I to really write this book? No one's going to read it. I'm going to get these negative reviews. People are going to trash the book. They're going to see that I can't. And I'm like, and then it was like, it kind of hit me. I'm like, no, wait a second. I've been doing this for so many years. I've studied for so many years. Let me see what happens. Let me write the book and then go from there. So, and I was also big on procrastination. I kept saying, I'm going to write the book someday. And for years, I would always say, someday I'm going to write a book. And it wasn't until 2023 where I realized that someday is not a day on the calendar.
That's a good one.
And
Sunday's not
usually,
a day on the calendar.
and most of the time, if you say someday, it'll never happen, rather than being very intentional and specific. So for me, it was like setting it out on the calendar because I was like, I don't want to be a statistic because I also heard a statistic that only one out of every 100 people who say they want to write a book actually do it. The
Yeah.
other 99% wish and never happens. So I was like, I have to write the book. I really have to sit and write the book. So in 2023, I started doing time blocking where I would 90 minutes, 60 to 90 minutes, sometimes 2 hours. I would just block out time a day and write. And
No.
also, so that what I would say to anybody listening, if you have a goal, something you want to do, just take action on it. Put it on your calendar and start taking some small steps to make it
Make that
happen.
happen. Right. Good.
Because
Good point. Very good point.
And another tip that I heard, especially for anybody who's listening, who's writing, is to write first and then self-edit later. Because what I was doing in the beginning was kept failing at attempts at writing in the beginning. I'd write a paragraph and then go back and read the paragraph and then be very upset with myself and delete the entire paragraph. And I'm at square one again. It's never getting anything done. So, an advice I heard from an author who at the time was a mentor of mine, who wrote several books, and said, just write first. Everything, pour it out.
And then
Write,
go into editing.
and then go back and editing. And it made a much difference because when I had a full-on manuscript, I'm not deleting that anymore. And I made some changes, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna outsource this to professionals.
Yeah.
And
Hire your weakness. Yep.
yeah, and I hired.
Editors.
I went to two different editors to kind of read the book, and had
Awesome.
them, and they edited. And it was perfect.
Nice.
And then I got it back, and next thing you know, get a cover design and formatting, and there we are. It was
Nice.
holding the book in my hand. But if I didn't take action, it would have still been a pipe dream. And even in 2025, I'm going to write a book. No, you have to take
Right.
action.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing is taking action. Well, it sounds like things are going pretty good for you in your business and looking forward to the future. Wondering, have you ever created passive income in the past? So the book could be part of it. And what would you recommend for passive income?
Passive income courses, recordings, audio courses, video courses that can kind of sell while you sleep.
While you sleep. Yeah, that's passive income.
So what I do now, and I'm working on this too, is I have an audio library of hypnosis recordings. So like meditative recordings on everything from leadership to public speaking to addictions to sports enhancement.
Awesome.
So, and you can download them on my website. They're very inexpensive, and you own it, and then you can listen to it daily with your headsets or while you're just relaxing. And they're only 15 minutes, 15 to 17 minutes are not long. And
awesome.
So and I'll be also working on courses and all those things with passive income and books.
Nice.
Of course. So that's really important too. And once you do the first book, everything else becomes easier. So that's what I really recommend is taking action. Because when you take action, everything else it gets easier.
I like that time blocking advice. That's a good one too. That helps you get to your goals. Well, listen, wrapping up the interview, we appreciate everything. And what are your plans for the next 6 to 12 months? What do you got planned for Dr. Albert?
So for me, I'm working on another book at the moment.
Nice.
It's in the outlining stage right now, and it's going to be on a little different focus. It's going to be on gaslighting at work and business. And it's the working title right now is called Untwisting the Truth.
Ooh, I like that.
And so that's kind of currently what I'm doing at the moment. I'm also putting some courses together, a good companion to my book now, Rise Above the Script. And then I also am thinking of well, not thinking, but I will be launching a hybrid group and individual coaching program, which
Awesome.
is be like a mastermind to overcome self doubt and
Right.
again self sabotage.
Well, a lot of people like sabotaging themselves.
Absolutely,
I always say people are the worst critics.
they certainly are.
I agree wholeheartedly. Hey, listen, Dr. Albert, I can't thank you enough. And if people wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that? And what method would they get in contact with you?
Sure. They can reach me on my website, albertbramante.com. You can also reach me on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. And
Awesome.
love to connect and have conversations.
That'd be great. If anybody wants to be an actor in New York, please look Dr. Albert. He's actually awesome at this stuff. I want to thank you very much for being on the podcast and appreciate your time. Thank you, and we'll say goodbye to the audience. Bye,
Thank you,
y'all.
Rebecca.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.